The year was 1927. Ebenezer, Eben Byers, had it all. He was the son of a super wealthy American steel tycoon, a champion amateur golfer, a highly educated athlete, and a high society celebrity. If you had seen him on the streets of Pittsburgh in the 1920s, you would have thought this man was completely invincible. His wealth, health, and lifestyle were the picture of absolute perfection. Yet, just 5 years after this incident, in 1932, the 51-year-old Eben Byers passed away, and his death was anything but normal. His bones had grown hollow from the inside, multiple holes had burned through his skull, and his lower jaw had literally disintegrated and detached from his face. What caused his horrific condition? A secret virus? No. The culprit was a tiny 60 ml glass bottle that 1920s doctors called a miracle energy drink. A tonic claimed to cure over 150 diseases, the drink was named Radithor. And its core ingredient was actual radioactive material, radium 226 and radium 228. This is a story of science, greed, and human biology coming together in one of the history's most terrifying tragedies, the radium water disaster. The radium craze of 1920s. To understand this tragedy, we first have to look back at the mind-boggling radium era. In 1898, Nobel laureates Marie and Pierre Curie discovered radium. It emitted an unnatural green glow in the dark and continuously released heat. At the time, science had virtually no understanding of the long term biological damage caused by radiation. People assumed that if radium could produce heat and light, it could also infuse the human body with cell vitality and a life force. Because health safety regulations were virtually non existent, quack doctors and opportunistic businessmen turned the hype into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Commercial data from the 1920s shows over 100 radioactive products sold openly on the market. Radio cosmetics promised skin brightening and anti aging effects, though radio toothpaste claimed to kill 100% of dental bacteria using thorium and radium. Radium Nutrix and chocolates sold as daily energy supplements. Radium emanators, water coolers priced between $100 and $300 designed to radiuminize ordinary drinking water. And then entered William J.A. Bailey. Bailey was no medical doctor. He was a Harvard dropout who used forged medical credentials. In 1918, he created a patent medicine called Radithor. Each 60 ml bottle of Radithor contained 1 microcurie of radium 226 and radium 228 dissolved in distilled water. In the 1920s, a single bottle of Radithor cost $1. Adjusted for inflation today, that's roughly $15 to $18 per bottle. Bailey targeted wealthy elites rather than the mass market. He also implemented a shrewd sales tactic, offering doctors 17% cash rebate on every bottle prescribed. Unsurprisingly, doctors blindly trusted the product and began prescribing Radithor to thousands of unsuspecting patients. In November 1927, Eben Byers fell from a train berth, suffering a minor injury to his right arm, plagued by chronic pain and fatigue. His physician, Dr. Charles Moyer, suggested he try Radithor. Byers drank his first bottle. Almost instantly, he felt his fatigue vanish. His physical energy and mental focus seemed to skyrocket. What was actually happening inside his body? Modern toxicology explains that when high energy radioactive alpha particles hit internal tissues, the body experiences an acute systematic inflammatory stress reaction. Blood vessels dilate, adrenal glands spike, and the temporary cellular damage triggers a massive adrenaline rush. Byers believed he was experiencing a health miracle, but in reality, his nervous system was reacting to a severe alpha radiation attack. Becoming a fanatical promoter of Radithor, Byers started consuming 3 bottles a day. He had cases shipped to his homes in Pittsburgh, New York, and South Carolina. He even gave Radithor to his billionaire friends, girlfriends, and race horses. From November 1927 to October 1930, a span of 36 months, Eben Byers consumed a staggering 1,400 bottles of Radithor. In numerical terms, he ingested over 1400 microcuries of radiation. Considering safe medical exposure is measured in tiny microfractions, Byers had flooded his systems with hundred of times the lethal threshold. How radium destroyed his body. In the periodic table, radium sits directly below calcium in group 2, alkaline earth metals. Because of their identical chemical reactivity and valency, the human body cannot tell the difference between calcium and radium. When Byers drank those 1400 bottles, his digestive tract absorbed the radium as if it were calcium, permanently depositing it into the bone matrix, bone marrow, skull, and teeth. Once trapped in bone tissue, radium continuously emits alpha radiation. Alpha particles are heavy double charged helium nuclei. As they collide with bone cells, they strip away DNA strands and cut off the blood supply to the bone tissues, initiating a process called aseptic bone necrosis. By 1930, at age of 50, radiation poisoning began destroying Byers' body from the inside out. Migraines and weight loss. He suffered severe unexplained migraines and his weight plummeted from 80 kgs down to 50 kgs. Without any cavities or decays, his teeth began loosening from the root and falling out one by one. By 1931, his lower jaw bone became so brittle and decayed that it fragmented. Surgeons were forced to remove his entire lower jaw and most of his upper jaw. Microscopic holes formed throughout his skull, a condition known in medical literature as moth eaten skull. In 1932, the Wall Street Journal published a famous headline about his case. The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off. The federal investigation and tragic end. In September 1931, the Federal Trade Commission (FTC) launched an investigation into Radithor for fraud and unsafe practices. FTC attorney Robert Heiner Wynn visited Byers' luxury mansion to take his testimony. Will later wrote in his official report, "In a magnificent house, I found a man whose mind was completely clear, but who could barely speak. His head was swathed in bandages. He had undergone two operations in which his entire upper jaw, except from two front teeth, and most of his lower jaw had been removed. All the remaining bone tissue of his body were slowly disintegrating." On March 31, 1932, 51-year-old Eben Byers passed away after agonizing suffering. The official cause of death was recorded as radiation induced necrosis and kidney failure. His kidneys had completely failed trying to filter out the radioactive toxic burden. While the human body's lethal threshold for radioactive burden is around 10 micrograms, Byers' autopsy revealed 30 micrograms of active radium absorbed in his bones alone. His body was so dangerously radioactive that a normal wooden coffin wasn't an option. Eben Byers was buried at Allegheny Cemetery in Pittsburgh inside a heavy lead lined coffin to prevent radiation from leaking into the soil and groundwater. The story gets even more disturbing in 1965, 33 years after Byers' death. MIT scientist Robley Evans exhumed Byers' remains for research. Scientists assumed that radiation levels would have decayed significantly, but instead, their radiation counters spiked. Even after 3 decades underground, Byers' skeleton was as toxic as the day he died. But why? Because radium 226 has a radioactive half life of 1600 years. Byers' body was immediately resealed in a massive lead vault. Scientifically speaking, his skeleton will continue emitting radiation until roughly 3532 AD. Eben Byers' tragic death shocked the American political and medical establishment into action. Before this, under the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, the government couldn't easily ban a product unless deliberate fraud was proven. Unproven toxic chemicals were routinely sold legally as a patent medicines. Byers' high-profile death sparked public outrage, leading directly to passage of the Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act of 1938. This required manufacturers to prove product safety through clinical trials before going to the market. The fate of William J. A. Bailey, however. The FTC shut down Bailey Radium Laboratories permanently, although Bailey never served prison time. He died of bladder cancer in the late 1940s. When his body was later exhumed, his remains were also found to be heavily radiated. The tragedy of Eben Byers serves as a stark reminder in medical history of what happens when aggressive marketing and greed eclipse rigorous clinical testing. The strict safety trials, FDA testing protocols, and precise dosage standards we rely on today were written through the heavy price paid by Eben Byers and thousands of other like the Radium girls during the early 20th century. That's all for today. If you like the video, do share and comment, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Let's meet in our next video. Until then, stay strong, stay safe, and keep missing Instant Medical.